So now, it used to be. I understand it. When would you say, Mike? When would you say the philosophy changed? When would you say that it came from keeping the peace to enforcing the law?
I can tell you exactly when it was. It was right about the very, very late 70s to early 80s. There was actually political action that went through the system, and that's when you started watching that phrase, to protect and serve, start disappearing from law enforcement vehicles, because more and more and more jurisdictions started to adopt that policy. They went, wow, really? You mean we don't have to put ourselves in the line of fire? We don't have to rush to calls anymore? Because, that kind of thing. There's actually been a metamorphosis of civilian law enforcement that people think they have a good grasp on. They think they understand what civilian cops are about, but they don't. They don't have a damn clue anymore. It's not the George Rock or the Rockwellian paintings of the blue-clad police officer. You notice they went from blue, which stood for justice, to virtually black, which is a psychological intimidation thing. That's why SWAT teams are outfitted in black uniforms. It's actually a psychological thing. It's borderline psychological warfare. So when you get down to these scenarios and you start listening to the way these people are trained and the tactics that they're trained to use, the suppression tactics and all that good rot, it makes perfect sense that somebody said they dumped another device in the middle of these guys. Okay, reason being, dude's on the deck, he's injured. What happens when one of their own gets injured? The people are going to get more pissed off, and then they're going to escalate, and then they're going to start doing bad things again, even worse, and then they're going to take the chance of charging the line, and then you've got a real serious poo storm on your hands. So in a preemptive strike, they will do what's called area saturation, where they pop a bunch of gas canisters, they huck them out. I guarantee you that was not the only one. I will guarantee you that there's probably 6. The guys on the 37s got back there. It's a 6-shot rotary launcher. So basically, these guys went out there. They got the order from their TOC, or Tactical Operations Center. Gas, gas, gas. Pump, 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 pump. They start shooting CS gas canisters out there. The thing to look for, and I'm going to give you guys a little nugget, a little piece of wisdom. A CS gas canister is a gray cylinder with a red stripe. That's how you identify them typically. Okay, be able to identify your munitions. A typical DefTech 35 flashbang is a much smaller cylinder that's kind of not necessarily hourglass shaped, but it's got a bulge at the top and a bulge at the bottom. It's thin in the middle, and it's perforated with holes approximately a ½ inch in diameter. That's how you tell the difference. And believe me, you would know a flashbang from a gas canister. There'd be no doubt.
Oh, sure, of course, no doubt.
So, that being said, and that's one of those things that, if you're going to go out to one of these things, and this is what I'm saying about this poor kid that got hit in the head, if you're going to go out there as a veteran himself who's been deployed to a combat zone, you would think that especially as a Marine, that he would possess the leadership skills to tell those people around him, hey, these guys are forming a suppression line. We need to back off, because the next thing they're going to do is start pumping gas at us. He should have known these things, because, there's lots of Marine units that get these cultural sensitivity things, these counterinsurgency, civil disturbance trainings. They get the FM on civil disturbances. They know what the tactics are. They know what to expect, because it's what they would do in reverse. We're at them. So, that's the thing, is I have to put out a disclaimer. Guys, I'm not backing one side or the other until I see the videos. I just want to see exactly what happened before I get emotional either way.
Absolutely. And that's one thing that we always try to point out here on Freedomlink Radio. And I think we harped on this last show, Mike, where, a lot of people rush to judgment before they go ahead and get all the facts. Even to the point where, the British newspapers are doing this now, and they're pushing it. They're pushing because controversy sells, gives you website hits.
It's media
the advertiser likes it. Absolutely. That's been going on for hundreds of years. So you have to understand that. You have to weed through the crap.
Joe, let's go before the break, man. Let's make sure all of our listeners hear that again. Ladies and gentlemen, media sensationalism. They will twist this to piss you off because it makes you do dumb stuff.
Right.
It makes you form opinions before you have all the facts. That's what they want you to do. They're trying to instigate you into a fight by putting this out in front of you and pissing you off because a decorated Marine was struck in the head with a guys, be careful. Break it down into pieces. Analyze it.
Stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back after a few short messages. Don't go away. Welcome back to Freedomlink Radio, everybody. Joe Joseph and Mike Powers bringing you the latest in controversy. Our email address, should you feel the need to email us, is thefreedomlink@centurylink.net. That's thefreedomlink@centurylink.net. We do respond to all feedback from the show, whether it's positive or negative. No problem by us. We certainly do appreciate it. Any suggestions? If you want to hear a certain guest come on the show, just shoot us an email. But, Mike, before the break, we were talking about the Oakland incident with the Marine, and one thing that I want to point out, because I see a lot of people out there that, all government people should be arrested and all this kind of stuff. Let me throw this out to you. You want to see change? Do you want to see change in certain aspects of this? Then what you have to do is make the change. Now, certain things about this protest raise red flags with me. One is George Soros is directly funding the Occupy Wall Street movement. That should raise a red flag with a lot of people. Why? Because he's one of the same elitist scumbags that are ushering in this police state. So the question is if he's one of the scumbags that are ushering in the police state, then why, on God's green earth, if that's what he wants, would he go and push these protests as well? What is the ulterior motive or the underlying agenda to that, number one? Number two, you want to make change in government? Get involved. Go ahead, get in government and make the change if that's what you want to do. Don't just stand on the sidelines and say, oh, well, all these government people are bad. Well, get in there and change it. Because it is important. It is our duty as I hate to call us citizens. Mike, you brought it up last time. When you call us citizens, it's actually like a subservient thing. It's derogatory in a way, isn't it? Mike? Are you there, Mike? Are you muted, Mike?
I am. I'm sitting here bitching my butt off, man, and I'm muted. No, it's just like how the word patriot has been turned into a curse word, and militia has been turned into a curse word. And, it's one of those things, man, that basically I posted up. It's FM. Dang it. It's in the chat room here. I posted it up in the chat room. I want, for all those listeners out there that can actually hear what I'm saying, or it's FM. Dang it. Everybody's posting so fast I can't keep up and scroll back up. Guys, stop posting for a minute. Oh, for crying out loud. All right. That's not going to happen. Let me get to this thing. I need to. Yeah.
You crack me up, man.
These guys are killing me.
Hold on. Having a little problem chatting and typing at the same time. Going to have to bear with me a second.
It's killing me, man. It's killing me. Don't tick her off, right? It's FM.
I see now you got, there it is. FM 3-19.15.
Okay, guys. Now, this is what I need everybody to understand. An FM, or military field manual, is the doctrine that our troops were trained by. This is a free download. You can look it up on Google. It's FM Fox Mike 3 TAC 19 TAC 15. 3-19.15, the FM on civil disturbance operations. Okay, this is exactly what you're going to see. It's going to give you an insight as to how these troops, and I say troops because police are trained by, you would not believe how many times civilian police officers go to military installations for training on these issues. Okay, so there's definitely a trade-off going on between these two agencies. So that is exactly the same kind of techniques that they're taught. Okay, and that will teach everybody an awful lot. And I urge people to take a walk through that FM and just look at how they talk about saturating an area with gas preemptively and all that kind of stuff. It will give you a fantastic magnified window into how things are done, and then it will become clear.
Because the biggest thing in the military, folks, train the way you fight the way you train. These people are trained to do this a certain way. There's protocols, and they follow it to the T. So
they're
that's the thing. They're not going to say, oh, well, this protest and it's their constitutional right. No, they're going to see certain things in their environment, in their surrounding areas. They're going to look at they're going to do a risk assessment. They're going to look at their situational awareness is going to tell them, no, this is what we were trained to do. Boom, 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 boom. And that's it. Right. And there goes the gas.
Now, so here's some things also. I'm sorry, buddy. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Here's some things to really I'm hoping that everybody will take into consideration also is that you've also got to think about how these guys, what's going on inside their heads. They're out there as part of a 30 to 40 man line. They've got a radio earpiece in their ear that they've got a commander or a section sergeant or something like that that's yelling at them, telling them, oh, got to look over here, got to look over there, da-da-da-da-da-da. They're not going to sit there and start making independent decisions. They're going to do exactly what they've been trained to do. They're going to follow the orders of their chain of command. And when that TOC or TOC, Tactical Operations Center, comes out and says, suppress the left side with gas, blah, 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 those guys are not making, that's what I need everybody to understand out there, okay, is that these guys are not making independent decisions. They're not out there targeting people. They're not out there through a scope with a tear gas launcher going, I'm going to shoot that guy in the forehead. Because, no, that's not what's happening. They are going by a predetermined set of operational protocols. That something happens in this more than 20 people cluster in a size group this big, suppressed with gas. They're doing exactly what they have been trained to do, which is not an excuse. It's
right,
not
exactly. I was just gonna give that caveat. It's not an excuse for what happened, and we're certainly not justifying what they did. But to give you a background as to why they behaved. Right, why they behaved the way they did. There's protocols. This stuff is it's ingrained into their brains, guys. They are in no uncertain terms, they're drones. That's really what they are. They're drones. They don't have the option of critical thinking at that point. All they do is when they hear an order, they follow it. And that's it.
Yes, and I need to address something real quick. Lucky says, Mike, that round, though, should have been aimed at the ground, right? Severe cluster, F, and the guy getting hit in the head. See, now here's the thing. In order to, and this is something that guys need to understand about how these weapons work. There's essentially what there is called a lift charge, and that's the powder that's behind the actual round that delivers, it's the propellant that delivers the canister out to its intended area. Now, dependent upon the manufacturer of the round, the individual cartridge weight, and the dispense rate that it has, you have to basically lob these canisters over into a crowd. So essentially, technically, the answer to the question, bouncing them off the ground, technically, yes, you're supposed to. But in order to deliver it out to its intended area, it depends on where the gas gun was. There's a lot of things that come into play. And again, I really have to put this out there that without seeing the trajectory that the firing officer had, as well as his distance from the target area, they may only have had one gas gun for that section, which means he could have been an excessive amount of distance away. The fact that it's a 1 pound, yeah, exactly. You've really got to pop and throw them over. I mean, it's not like pitching them with your hand. With that gas gun, you've really got to basically it's like firing a mortar, essentially. One person said a few minutes ago that we needed to understand that they shouldn't have been gassed in the first place. Now I'm going to pose a question. Where do you draw the line? How do we make the determination as to who should and shouldn't be gassed? At what time do we draw the line and say that this has gone from peaceful to not peaceful? I'm asking our listeners to remember that the last 5 pictures I've seen, people are wiping their butts with your flag. They're defecating on your flag. They're holding up signs telling you about how they want your country to disappear, promote socialism, kill capitalism. I've seen pictures of Che Guevara and all this other kind of stuff. Guys, these people are not out there protecting your liberties and freedoms. That's not what they're up to. That's not what they're doing. And if they are, it's a minuscule amount of them.
But let me tell. Okay, Mike. In this instance, what if? I'm just going to pose a hypothetical situation. So you got Occupy Wall Street down there, and they go ahead and they burn the flag.
Sure.
It's their freedom of expression. They can do that. You want to burn the flag? Well, but that's the thing is that you assume a risk when you do that.
Exactly. But the risk that I'm going to bust your ass. You burn my flag in front of me.
But you're free to do it. I most certainly recognize that it is that. The flag is a symbol. It's a symbol. It represents something. It used to represent a lot of good things, but now because the United States has gone off the deep end, if you ask me, it represents a lot of bad things as well. And I'm gonna pose that to you because what America symbolized 100 years ago is not what it symbolizes today. I'm going to bring something up. Hey, you in the chat room. I'm going to throw some Bible at you. Because the Bible speaks about the United States in prophecy as being the beast with horns of a lamb that spake like a dragon. And here we are. Think about this, guys. Think about this. Here we are saying, oh, we are here to spread peace and democracy throughout the world. Yet here we are doing nothing but forcing our will upon countless different sovereign nations. When we come back, I'll continue our little talk about that. You're listening to Freedom.